Islam my deen, Islam my deen. Allah my Lord, Allah my Lord. His word Quran, His word Quran. Muhammad Prophet, praise be upon him. I'm a Muslim for all of time. As I grew up, walking in this great big world, I gazed in awe at the wonders of Allah. And as I learned the cruel lessons of life, Islam shone through as my guiding light.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome, dear viewers from around the world, to our exciting program titled Good Answer. I'm your host, Malik, and I'm joined by the Imam of America, the founder of Guide Us TV. He needs no further introduction. I think you know who I'm talking about, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum, Malik.
It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
It's great to be here again.
Excellent, Sheikh. And we also have our studio audience. Look at these handsome guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. Today, Sheikh, we're looking for good answers because a lot of non-Muslims out there have good questions. Are you ready to tackle some questions from people? They need a good answer.
Hey, it sounds like a quiz show. I'm ready.
Well, as you know, we hit the streets of London, and let's check out these clips of some young people asking us questions about Islam.
All right.
My name is Khalid. One of the common questions that I used to get asked when I was in college, this was so many years ago, was when I had a discussion with a friend, and the discussion was, whether God exists, how, we believe in God, and there are people who are atheists, and, they find it difficult to understand if God does exist. So that was one of the questions that I faced.
Excellent, Sheikh Yusuf. Basically, the question was, as you saw, does God exist? But before I get your comment, why don't we go to the studio audience real quick and get their thoughts on that?
Who's got a question?
Go ahead, young man.
Yes, go ahead.
My name's Tayyib.
Tayyib.
And my comment is that they're asking if God exists or not. So
Right.
say, because if you wanted to know if God exists or not, you can look at his at his creation and stuff. Because for an example, if you had a car, say you had a car, maybe a Mercedes, and somebody came and said, nobody created this, nobody made this Mercedes, everybody would be like, this guy's crazy, because this Mercedes, somebody had to make it, right? So look at the sky, look at the mountains, look at the seas, somebody had to make that.
Excellent.
So that's my comment.
Thank you, Brother Tayyib. Excellent. What do you think, Sheikh Yusuf? That's an excellent point.
Well, actually, that has been used before, and I like that one. In particular, we have a website that we use called scienceislam.com. Uses this same exact concept that if you see something existing, where did it come from?
Okay.
That's the bottom line. And when an atheist is talking to you, he's not going to accept that you're going to be talking about the Bible or the Quran or Hadith or anything. He just want to know common sense. And Allah gives us this in the Quran. هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش. This is one of different variations in the Quran where Allah says He's the one who created everything in 6 periods of time and then rose above His throne. Now, the point that we want to bring out of that is we know only Allah is a creator. So we can ask them, so without attributing this to Allah or any God, could you tell us where everything came from? And if they said, well, there was like this big mass and it blew up, where did the mass come from? And what was the cause behind the blowing up? Because if he's an atheist, he doesn't believe in creation, he believes in cause and effect. All right, if you want to take that position, what was the cause? What's the effect? Where did it come from to start with? And you can't answer it, because no matter what you say, where did that come from? Where did that come from? He may even take the position that, well, yeah, but still this is an illogical question because everything had to come from somewhere. Well, fine, good. Where?
Right.
Yeah, and it comes back to we have answers, but you haven't looked into them. I invite them to go to the website.
ScienceInIslam.com.
Science Islam, just ScienceIslam.com, and check out a lot of the information we have there, especially with regard to embryology, geology, astronomy, and these things in the Quran which have been mentioned over 1,400 years ago. But here's one that it's not necessarily just about the existence of God, but it's to prove that Islam has the correct position on all these subjects is the prophecy mentioned in Quran that I doubt anybody could even imagine. And this is in Quran when Allah is talking about something that happened before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and a result which will happen after he's gone. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the drowning of Pharaoh at the time of Musa alayhi salam, many centuries before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. True?
True, very
so
true.
Here's the drowning of Pharaoh, and Allah says we will preserve him in his body as a sign for all times. And since that time, his body has been discovered and put on display, on tour around, and I've seen it, as a matter of fact, at the Chicago Museum, and there's his body, and they say that he died of drowning.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So,
I believe he's here in Cairo, actually, and they even, a French doctor looked at him and said, this man died of drowning.
Dr. Maurice Bucaille, exactly in his book on this subject, Bible, Quran, and Science. But anyway, to come back to it, what is the proof God exists? First and foremost is, how did everything come about? If you accept that we are here, how did we get here? Where did intelligence come from? Where does reason come from? Where does right and wrong, morality come from? Why these concepts? And then listen to this one. Every language since the beginning of recorded history contains a word for God. Now there's one particular language that has between 100 and 200 words only. Still it had a word for God. Now if every language since time immemorial has this word for God, why? Why do humans have this word for God if he doesn't exist? And it's actually a proof against them when they say, I don't believe in God. Well, if you don't believe there's a God, why did you say the statement? Why don't you just say, I believe whatever you believe? And you can't because you're stuck. You have to say what you don't believe in. So you're acknowledging the existence of something by saying that you don't believe in it.
Right, right. But Sheikh Yusuf, the atheists always have this argument. They say, prove to me God exists. I want concrete proof. And what you're saying is, the fact that we are here should be evidence enough.
But I'm going to ask a question. This is one of my favorite things to do, guys. Listen to this. Somebody come to you with any kind of a question, and I'm going to say to them, yes, in Islam we have the truth, we have the proof, we're ready to deal with your question, but first of all, what is going to be your response to the question? Why are you asking? Why do you want to know? Are you serious? Do you really want a good answer? Because if you get that good answer, is it going to change your life? Are you going to be ready to make a new you?
Right.
Are you going to be ready to make a move to something better?
Right, because oftentimes what you're saying is people are not sincere. Maybe they just want to have a philosophical debate. So it's important to clarify what their intentions are in the beginning.
You know, I want to know if I'm wasting his time or mine.
Right.
And
right,
just real quick, if he just wants a fast answer and he doesn't care, then the fact that we're here and exist proves there's something, doesn't it?
Of course.
If you want to know more, let me know. Bye. Or if they want to take it to another level, yes, we're most ready to go into this in depth, and hopefully these answers, these good answers that we're coming up with, are going to bring all of us in a better position with truth and understanding. Make sense?
And indeed, Sheikh, that was a good answer. And I think being from the United States, you face this question a lot from people. Prove to me, does God exist? Does God exist? I think it's part of the Western mindset. I think it's critical, and it wants concrete proof. And of course, go ahead.
Well, one of the things I usually deal with when I'm giving this information to people is their personality. Are they really serious? I'm trying to see if he's serious about what he's talking about. Because when he's had some basic information provided that he didn't have before, all right, then we're going to say to him, if you really want to test this particular one, there's the best test in the world. Go inside your own heart. You don't have to move your lips. In your own heart, just say this, oh God, if you exist, guide me. And if you're sincere, you'll be able to prove your point right away. Because either guidance will come or it won't. If you don't get any guidance, well, fine. But if you do, that proves it. Simple as that.
Sheikh Yusuf, you accepted Islam many years ago. Over your time as a Muslim, how many people have asked you that question, does God exist? And how many people have entered Islam as a result of a good answer?
That number, I don't know. There are a lot, but I remember the first one. Me. I want to know, is there
me
a
as
God?
well, yeah, right.
And I had a good answer come to me. Exactly what we're talking about. The same question that Tayyib answered himself. that you see something existing, don't you know it came from somewhere? And when it's going down the street, you don't say, I deny that came from anywhere. It just popped up. Well, no, for instance, here's another one, Ted. Maybe you heard this one. You have a glass of water or something like this, right? Drop it on the cement. Just drop it. What will happen? It'll break into a lot of pieces, right? But it would never fall down and make small little glasses, or change the content or something like that.
It won't turn into Coca-Cola.
No, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Also, another point. If you see a tornado, hurricane, or a tsunami, something like this, may Allah save us from that. But it goes through a junkyard or a trash yard, picks up all these metal things, old cars, refrigerators, stoves, and metal, throw it up in the air, and then it comes down and makes a brand new Mercedes or Rolls Royce with a motor running. Come on, give me a break. You know that doesn't exist, right? So where did it come from? And the universe itself is far more intricate. It is far more detailed. You cannot even begin to explain. We cannot create the wing of a fly. We cannot create a living thing. Listen to this. I read this in one of the science books. We cannot even create one simple molecule of protein.
SubhanAllah.
One. And it's impossible for it to accidentally come about in the universe. Protein cannot come about as an accident, collisions in the universe. Therefore, when we see all the protein running around, human beings are made out of it, life is made out of it, where did it all come from?
That's indeed a good answer and a simple answer. It seems very straightforward and clear. So why then have so many Americans and Europeans, particularly, why are they hung up on this question, does God exist? I was hung up on it myself for many years.
Well, then you're probably familiar with the feeling that goes along with it. Because the problem is coming, I think, from a lot of people's perception of who God is or isn't. Because when you look at what some people claim is God, then you don't want to believe that that's real. If somebody told you God is a man walking around on the earth, he has to hide himself from problems, you're like, forget about it. I don't need that. Or if somebody tells you God has multiple personalities floating around in space and does all these weird things, interaction with people, and like the Greek gods and Roman gods, and things, yeah, it gets nuts.
Right.
So if somebody wants to know about this subject, and this is another one, Tab, you can use this one. Our website's called godallah.com. Here we give the description of the God that we know of as Allah, and how he is never like anything in the creation. All the creation depends on him, but he doesn't need the creation. He is so absolute in all of his attributes that all of his names are the, such as he's merciful. No, he's the merciful. And we say love. No, we don't say God is love. We say he's the loving. It means it's eternally ongoing. Al-Wadud. All of his names are a proof of what he is and what he does. This is not available in other religions, by the way. And that is why you will find so many problems when you look at what is the belief of the Hindu God, the Buddhist gods. In Buddhism, you are the God yourself, basically. And in Christianity, where Jesus is the Son, the God, and the Spirit, and the whole bit at the same time. All these things are confusing. Simple and straightforward. God created everything. He gave life. He takes life. And all of us are going to be returned to him on the day of judgment. That's it.
And that's the bottom line. That's indeed a good answer. You guys stay tuned for more Good Answer with our beloved Sheikh Yusuf Estes. We'll be right back.
I am a Muslim, Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, praise be upon.
تخيل أنك ومع إشراقة كل صباح تسافر في أرجاء الأرض لتنشر النور في بقاع لم يصلها بعد. تخيل أنك ومع كل رشفة ماء تساهم في أن يرشف غيرك النور المبين. تخيل أن بذرة صغيرة قد زرعتها جعلتك مرسال خير يبعث بأطهر كتاب لمن يحتاجه حقا. نور على نور. أكثر من مليار مسلم لا يملكون مصاحف، فهل أخذت سهمك من النور؟
Islam my deen. Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, praise be upon.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our exciting series titled Good Answer. I'm your host Malik, and of course I am joined by the Imam of America, the founder of Guidance TV. He needs no further introduction. I'm very happy to be with him, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. Thank you for staying with us, Sheikh Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum.
It's alaikum salam. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you. In the first segment, we had a tough question. It was a good question, but you had a good answer. The question was, does God exist? And you gave him a good answer. We established, didn't we, that God does exist.
Well, I think if somebody's reasonable, they'd have to at least explore the possibilities of what we're talking about and take it to another level. The next thing that probably they would want to say, well, tell me more about the God.
That should be the next question if the person is reasonable, like you
They
said.
want to know more about what it is we believe, about this intelligence behind the design. They use that expression, ID, intelligent design. Now, scientists are even saying this. There's some intelligent design. Where did it come from? So if they want to ask, well, maybe we could ask the brothers with us in our audience.
Let's check it out.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Abdullah.
Alaikum
How do our belief differ from other religions?
That's an excellent question, Brother Abdullah. Do you have a good answer, Sheikh?
How do our beliefs in God differ from beliefs of other gods and other religions? Well, first and foremost, the pristine belief in Islam is so crystal clear that it was the most important and impressive factor that helped me make this decision to get into Islam. That there is really a uniqueness of God to the level that in the Arabic language, His name is uniquely one. That's the name, uniquely one, Ahad. In Arabic, you have Wahid, which means one. Ithna, Thalatha, Arba, Khams, like this when you're counting. But that first nun, Wahid, there's another word, Ahad. And Ahad doesn't have two that comes after it. You don't have that in English, so you can't really say it. That's why when people translate it to English, they say, He is Allah, He is the one. But actually it's, say He is Allah, uniquely and absolutely one. You know, you just can't, even then you're not getting the essence of Ahad. Now what that means, besides the etymology of the word, that you have an understanding that there is nothing in the creation at all that could possibly resemble or be like Allah in any way. The creation is very dependent on many different things. Every part of the creation depends on something else in the creation. Even gravitational pulls between planets, moons, satellites, etc. But when it comes to Allah, He has no dependency, while the entire universe is dependent on Him for sustenance, movement, and continuation from now on. And that name is also in the same verse, As-Samad. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad. Uniquely, totally different. Then it goes on to say, Lam, not Yalid. He's not the son of anybody. Well, Lam, and not Yulad. Not the father, not the son, not the progenitor. There is no relationship of God to human beings in any capacity. Then it even goes a step further, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٍ. There is nothing like unto Him. He is, again, uniquely one. It's interesting because you do find remnants of this in the Bible, even though it'll cross itself up at some point and almost sound contradictory. When it refers to this in the book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 19, God is not a man. God is not the son of man. Yet in other verses, going all the way back to Genesis, you find sons of God. Then you start wondering, how does that work? Well, in the Quran, you don't have that problem. It never comes up with this comparison of the deity, the one worshipped, to be anything like that's created. And can I sum it up by maybe saying it like this? We have a bumper sticker for Guidance TV, and it says right on it, worship the Creator, not the creation.
Excellent.
Simple as that.
Well, good, excellent point. Well said. A good answer again, Sheikh Yusuf. You've established very clearly that in Islam we know that that God exists and that there is only one God. What about other religions, like the brother Abdullah asked, maybe Hindus, Christians, Buddhists? They say, okay, we agree God exists, but God is in Malik, God is in Sheikh Yusuf, God is in this table. How do we combat, how can we dialogue with these people?
This actually is something in Islam called shirk. That is to associate a partner with Allah by worshiping something that's tangible in front of you, something you can imagine, something that's like something else. And this is well known to be the case in almost every single religion except Islam. To have that pure, pristine belief that God is so uniquely different and one and apart from His creation, not residing within, nor, and this is another point of what you're bringing up, nor is there anything that you can go through in this to get to Him. This is our belief, that if you want to contact God directly, you must do so through your heart, through your mind, but not through something with your hands or your feet or anything like this. It is a personal relationship you can have with Him as long as you don't put an intermediary between you and Him. Now, some people, they will worship something. They will look to something to solve their problems. I want to go to my totem pole out here and pray to it, or I have a little handmade god over here, my lucky horseshoe, or something like that. I remember they used to have, I don't know if you remember those, Malik, those
little idols.
Yeah, the little rabbit's foot.
Yeah, of course.
It's supposed to be a lucky rabbit's foot.
Right. People have
immediately, it should be in your mind, though. It wasn't very lucky for the rabbit. I mean, he's on crutches.
Yeah,
hey,
right.
Where's my foot, you know?
Yeah, of course. Not very lucky for the rabbit. We know that God exists as Muslims. We know He's not in the creation. This is what also helped me accept Islam. Do you think when you have someone ask you, does God exist, if you can get them to acknowledge the fact that God exists and that He's not in the creation, He's already one step closer to Islam?
I think that's a very big step, actually. Now, Dr. Zakir Naik, we love him very much, he said that the atheist, for him, is closer. And I said, how in the world? Because I always think Christians are closest to us in belief.
Right.
He said, no, because an atheist will say there is no God. He said that's the first half of the statement. There is no God
right,
except Allah.
Yeah, right.
He said they got that firm. There is no God, nowhere, no time, no place, no how, except the only God who is not having a place here in this creation, who is not existing like that. So if you can just have enough time to capture their mind long enough to explain, we never had those ideas in Islam. This is not Islam to say that God has something to do with the creation other than He's the creator, He's the sustainer, He is the one who is having mercy on it, taking care of it. Yes.
Of course.
And He never grows weary of that. He doesn't rest. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't need.
Right.
He's totally independent. In fact, everything that we have comes from Him, even our knowledge. And He says in the Quran, يَنَامُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And the meaning behind that, more or less, in Ayatul Kursi is that He has full knowledge of everything. Up, down, around, all aspects of knowledge is all His. Because He knows everything. And you don't have any knowledge, except He gave it to you. And by the way, He can take it back whenever He wants to.
As we find as people, excellent point. We learned growing up in the American public school system in California that they said, look, if you want to believe God exists, that's fine. But this is a faith-based system, and we deal in science. Mm-hmm. So what can we say to those people with this type of attitude? If you want to believe God exists, that's faith-based only. I'm dealing with facts.
Science is something that requires you to deal with facts. And facts, you're supposed to clear the table, clear off the sheet of paper, totally start from fresh if you really want to examine a subject, true or false.
True.
You don't bring preconceived notions, prejudices, and formulated ideas to the table. You start with nothing and build from there, only fact. The problem is a lot of these people start with these preconceived notions and claim that they're scientists. They say, as we already know, everything came from a Big Bang. Well, now, excuse me, that doesn't sound very scientific to start with that. If you just say, well, let's find out where everything came from. And they say, yeah, but we all came from monkeys. You know, hold on a second. Again, what is your proof? Well, because all the other scientists said that. Well, you're not going to make a monkey out of me. I'm not going for that
That's
one.
right.
So I would say that these things, as you go along, If we want to really come to scientific evidence, again, going back to the website I mentioned, scienceistime.com, you will be able to show step by step why it's logical to believe there is a God, a creator, a sustainer, and why there has to be some relationship between him, and why it's necessary for him to provide any guidance, but it's necessary for us to initiate the contact by asking. Until you ask, you got nothing.
Until you ask. You have to have a good question in order to get a good answer. Right, Sheikh?
I love that.
Sheikh Yusuf, you know, a Christian man from Texas once told me, Malik, don't you believe in evolution, this idea that we evolved from monkeys? I said, Sean, how can you be telling me this when you are a Christian? I said, don't you believe in the Bible? He said to me, Malik, I believe in the Bible, but not every word of it. So this is, what can we say about this type of thinking?
Well, I'm like him. I believe in the Bible too, but not every word of it in English. I do believe in the original one.
Right.
Let's ask our audience, brothers, who would like to say something? Brother? Yes,
Go ahead,
your name. And okay, Bilal, on this subject, when somebody's talking about human beings evolving from monkeys, what would you say?
I would say that, first of all, there is no proof.
That's right.
If monkeys evolved into humans, how come humans are not evolving into anything new?
There you go.
Exactly.
And another one, too, I like that one, Bilal. Another one is, if humans evolved from monkeys, how come we still have monkeys? They didn't evolve yet?
Excellent point. That's an excellent question. Sheikh, I have my family tree. It goes back 200-300 years. There's nobody on there that is an ape or orangutan or a monkey. They're all human beings.
Well, now the argument there would be that, no, this happened millions of years ago.
Right.
They always like to throw the millions of years out there. To the extent that they have these particular periods, the Australopithecine.
That's a hard word. Greek word.
Yeah, or the Cro-Magnon period.
Right.
Neanderthal man, all these different periods. But I found out from Dr. Fatima Jackson, who was on our TV show in Washington, D.C.
Excellent.
She is, by the way, the anthropologist, professor of anthropology in Maryland University. So when she was there, she explained that those periods of time that they associate with a particular development of a human being is totally off the course. She said all of these existed at every one of those periods.
Okay.
But the one that was the most predominant that they had found fossils of, that's the one they labeled it.
And that's how they trick us. And Sheikh, this is actually the end of this episode. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We'll continue, inshallah, in the next episode of Good Answer. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, inshallah. Don't miss more of Good Answer with the Imam of America, the founder of Guidance TV, Sheikh Yusuf Estes. So stay tuned for more, inshallah. Until then, we leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am a Muslim, Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, praise be upon Him. I'm a Muslim for all of time. Look at me now, family around my deathbed. I know not when Allah will call me home. The life I led, oh what a blessed thing. As death comes to me, these words I will sing. I am a Muslim, Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, praise be upon Him. I'm a Muslim for all of time.